Hi everybody, I just wanted to send a quick video out to remind you of some really important elements in this week's folder. I hope your research project is coming along well. As a reminder, in our course content link in Module 2, you will find lots of supplements for information regarding your research paper, like the assignment sheet. As a reminder, it's incredibly important that you pay attention to the requirements of the assignment. So you need to have 4 to 5 pages of text, and you need at least 6 sources, and you have to use the 8th edition of MLA. Now, also further down this page, it talks about you're having to use the Little Norton Reader. So if you fall short of any of the requirements of this assignment, then it will be rendered a U, or unacceptable, which goes into the gradebook as a 0 until you resubmit. And just as a reminder, you can go into the syllabus and find more information about what it means if you get a U on a paper or a 0 because you didn't meet the minimum requirements. Now, the assignment sheet also says that you have to use evidence, logical reasoning, and you have to, because you are writing argument, or some of you are straight up trying to convince me of something, right? So that's persuasion. And you have to have these appeals in your paper. Now, there was a PowerPoint in our module also about how you do that and how to avoid those fallacies that creep into our writing sometimes. Much of the time, fallacies can be avoided by the way that you word them. If I said, everyone has a problem citing a paper correctly, that's already a fallacy because I've overgeneralized. I've said that everybody is the same, and that's, of course, absolutely not true. So make sure that you're incorporating the evidence that will make you more convincing and build your argument in a stronger way. Logical appeals are those appeals to our heads that make sense to us, the appeals to our intellect, like facts and statistics. Emotional appeals would be those examples that we provide that tug on our heartstrings. And ethical appeals, I like to say, are the bridge between logical and emotional appeals, because ethical appeals show that you have credibility, number one, and you show that by providing a variety of sources. And then they also are going to make an appeal to our sense of right and wrong, or our sense of justice. So again, be looking for ways to incorporate that kind of evidence, and that would be what you're finding in your source materials in order to back that up. Now, I went through and made lots of comments on the note-taking assignment. It took me a while because I really had to do some fishing on some of these, because not everybody really, I think, understood the requirements of the assignment. But what I was looking for is, are you summarizing your essay correctly? Are you paraphrasing correctly? Are you quoting correctly? And are you citing those things correctly? Remember, whether you summarize, paraphrase, or quote, you have to provide your citation. Now, I want you to do that in a variety of different ways in the text, and that's how we find that we have a more sophisticated writing, that you don't have just quotes just dropped in every other sentence. Instead, you might use an introductory signal phrase and a parenthetical citation at the end. Now notice, because I'm saying the author's name here with Thompson, all I have to do is insert the page number in parentheses at the end of that. And notice my period goes after that citation. Another way that I could do that is quote. Okay, so in this case, we're taking his ideas, but we're not using his exact words. And down here, I want to use his exact phrasing, where I say cultural prophets, or whether we were facing a technological apocalypse or a utopia. Those are words specific to him. So I'm going to just quote those sections of my sentence. Now, again, I have the author at the beginning as a lead or a signal phrase, and then I have my citation at the end in the form of a page number in parentheses. So I end my quote, there's a space, parenthesis, number, in parenthesis, period. Notice again, there's no P, PG, there's no Thompson, comma, 7, none of that's going on. It's simply the number in parentheses because I have the author name at the beginning of the sentence. Now, sometimes I am going to just put in something from the author, but I don't have a lead or a signal phrase at the beginning of that. So here, notice I have an entire sentence of setup for my entire sentence of quote. So I have the author's name and the number in parentheses and then the period. No, there's no comma, there's no P, there's no PG, nothing like that. It's just name and number in parentheses and then the period afterward. So here we have one historian of technology argues that this controversy happens every time a new communication technology is introduced. That's a full sentence, but that is a lead-in to my full sentence of quote. So instead of putting a comma there, which would be a comma splice, I have a colon to set up my sentence of quote. Now, you can look through the rest of this on your own. This is provided to you in the course module MLA according to Pearson 2016 with updates. So that's kind of an introduction to citing using the Modern Language Association. And so the whole booklet is in there for you to refer to. Now, I also have various other things that if you are running into problems, you can access, like the online writing lab or OWL at Purdue, and then this little video on using the CRAP test to evaluate your sources. You always want to make sure that anytime you find an internet source that you are checking it out and making sure that it's a good valid source for you to use. Now, I've also supplied the common works cited and in text examples for you. So a book with a single author would be just like this. You have your author's last name, comma, first name, period, and then the title in italics, the publishing company, comma, and then the date of publication or the copyright date and period. That's the end of the citation. My in-text citation then, inside of my paper, I would have Gore 32. So keep in mind, when I am grading your paper, whenever I read along and I stop and I see a citation, I stop and then I flip to the works cited page to make sure this is all formatted correctly. Then if I have any question regarding the context that you're bringing this into, then I just go and I look at the source material. Okay, now notice this is a book with a single author. Our textbook, the Little Norton Reader, is it's not authored. Instead, Melissa A. Goldthwait is the compiler. And so these are various essays compiled by her into the text. So I'm not going to cite it as a book with an editor as an author. That's not what's happening here. When I use my Norton Reader essay, for example, if you've decided to use Salvation by Langston Hughes, that incredibly wonderful essay, then you are going to be citing that as a work in an anthology. So in other words, you're going to be citing who wrote the essay at the beginning of the citation and the essay's name next, and then the title of your book and who compiled it and the publisher and the publication date. Now, if you notice on the back of the title page also, it tells you that this edition that you're supposed to be using right now is the 2017 edition. Okay, it's the 2017 copyright because they had to reproduce this first edition because of the MLA updates that happened in 2016. So you don't need to put first edition in there. You're just going to put the title and subtitle, which is the 50 essays from the first 50 years separated with a colon, and then 2017 is the publication date. The PP period shows you that it's more than one page. It's a page range. So if your essay goes from pages 50 to 54, that's what I'll see at the end of that citation and then the period, okay? And the rule is that however you are citing that material internally in the paper, it's whatever's at the beginning of the entry on the works cited page. So if you are citing Langston Hughes, Then hues is what you're going to put internally in the text of your paper, and then you are going to put hues at the beginning of the entry on the works cited page as well. Okay, so I want to show you an example of a student paper here. And you will see that this student paper, if I can get it to scroll up, there we go. This is how you set up your paper: student name, instructor name, course name, and date. Notice the form of the date goes day, month, year, no commas. She has centered a title. And it doesn't just say research paper. You want to go beyond the name of the assignment there. Title your papers in an interesting way. And then the last name and page number goes in the upper right-hand corner, 1/2 inch down. So all of this information is just typed into the text. The insert head is a running head feature that you see up at the top. Okay. Now I want to show you if you didn't already notice the comments that are on your paper from the previous paper that you turned in. If you opened that up and you didn't see notes in the margin, then you're not seeing all of the gold that I'm giving you. So you want to make sure that you go up to the top in the tabs at the top of your Word document, and you have to use Word for this assignment. Click on Review, and then you'll click on where it says tracking over about a little bit further than midway across the top. Track changes should be on, and it should show all markup in the top window. And that will show you the comments that are in the margin on the side. Okay, now so I'm going to tell you things like the comma goes before the conjunction and compound sentences and that kind of thing. Okay, now I want to show you, this is a student paper of recent times. Now here's an example of what I was talking about in the supplemental information that was given to you. Notice she gives the author's name as part of the commentary, the setup at the beginning of the sentence. James Forman comments on the conclusion of why racial inequalities exist today. Now that's a whole sentence, so there should be a colon there to set up this whole sentence of quote. Studies indicate that implicit and overt racism among jurors, voters, etc. Now at the end of that sentence, she ends her quote. She does not need to say the author's name, Forman, inside of that again, because that was part of her lead-in, and she hasn't incorporated any of her own commentary in between this setup and the quotation. So all she needs in there is the page number and the period. So when I read the paper, then I see, oh, there's a citation Forman. So I'm going to skim down to the works cited entries, and I'm going to look alphabetically down the list because that's how they should be arranged for Forman. And then I see here's the title of that piece, and this is where it came from. The container is in italics. This had volume and page number. She's got a date and a page range there. Okay, so I'm wondering at this point, did she use that journal or did she use the database? Because if you use something like EBSCO, like I was showing you guys how to use, then you're going to cite the container that you use, which is maybe Academic Search Premier or Mass Ultra, that kind of thing. Okay, now here she needed to incorporate the subtitle, and notice it says compiled by Melissa Goldthwait. Everybody make sure you get your spellings on your authors correct as well. So that's basically how I do that, and just to make sure that you don't go in and sorry, I got thrown off because I wasn't expecting it to ask me that question. At any rate, I just have a little bit of time left. So I want to show you that the error directory that I added helps you to understand what those abbreviations are, and it also gives you some additional information about what things mean. If I tell you to put titles in a different way or something like that, there are links inside of there that will take you to these places online and help you to understand that concept better. So please use that error directory to help you. Use the research paper checklist to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do as well. You are going to get points taken off if you're not using formal style, which is third person point of view. Okay, so please use the checklist, and then do notice I've asked you to save your paper in a specific way, the assignment name, your last name, and first initial. Good luck.